and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. And we're here and we're ready to go with my co-host, Hawkeye Two Feathers, David Null. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hey, Milky Way, and to all of y'all, it's our first absolute show in the new year. So we had a show on New Year's Eve, but this is our official Happy New Year to all of you who watch this, and thank you for being with us. And as always, Robert, I'm pleased to be here on Tuesday evening, and this is 158 shows. Woo!
That's right.
And tonight we have a story about Glooskap. We're going to continue with those stories, so y'all hang on.
Well, and the best part, the best part about the story, it's about what country? What country? The country. The country the story's about.
What? You mean the stories?
Yeah, the story. What country
in the Americas?
The name of the story.
Oh, the name of the story. Oh, I done dropped it down out of the way. How Summer Came to Canada is our story for tonight.
And soon will be How Summer Came to the 51st State. That's what I was trying to get. It was a joke. I was trying to what? And I'm thinking, oh, come on. It's so easy to go. You got to go with it. Oh, How Summer Came to Canada, our 51st state,
Yep.
Oh, boy. Welcome to the world we live in. We're going to buy Greenland, annex Canada into being the first state, and rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. There we go. All inclusive. Yep. Yes, we are.
And it won't be the Panama Canal anymore. It'll be the American Canal.
That's right. The United States of America Canal. We dug it. We might as well take credit for it.
That's right.
But anyway, that's how it goes. And again tonight, we're talking about the Apaches. Boy, am I learning stuff about the Apaches. The Apaches were quite the people. They could run for hours on end without stopping. They were the skilled hunters and warriors. Actually, they were some of the best warriors because they were battling the Mexicans for 100 years or more before the United States even showed up. And so they were all in practice about battling and war and things like that. They were all battle hardened when the United States started coming into their lives.
It seems that in North America, especially, they had trouble with the Mexicans for a long time. I mean, there were several tribes up here and along, our present border now, but they had issues with the Mexican, bands and whatever, for a long time, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying you're right. They've been battling. They were skilled trackers, avid horse riders. Actually, they did some of their best fighting and battling off of horseback, though. They made shields to protect them from gunfire and arrows. They really knew what they were doing. They could travel for miles and miles and miles without stopping, as we've read in some of these stories, that they would, travel for days on horseback till their horses gave out. Or the one he was talking about, they ran ran so far that he literally fell asleep on his horse. I know from riding, it's like, holy cow, that's a lot of riding. You
Yep.
know, running 10 miles, nothing for them. So quite the skilled people. Some things I didn't know about them was that fact that the elevation that they lived in, and some of their downfall of going on to these reservations wasn't the fact that they didn't want to, give up and go there, which they didn't really want to go, but the place that the government had picked out was at a different sea level. Like it was at 4,000 foot elevation, and they were used to living at like an 8,000 foot elevation, which means that going down in elevation, it's going to get hotter. It's going to be more deserty. They were used to living in mainly the mountains of Arizona, in the southern half there. Kind of an arid region, but yet they still had water and they still had plenty of game to hunt. But once they got onto that reservation, it was basically a desert to them. And they didn't want to go there. They went there, and unless you provide us with, food and all the things I need to have, I don't want to be here. And so they would leave. I also learned that people like Geronimo, we know of him. I mean, there pretty much nobody has not heard of Geronimo. There was so many other chiefs though, but Geronimo wasn't, one of the great leaders. He was one of the great rebel rousers, I should say.
Warriors.
Yeah, he was a warrior. They were all warriors, but he was one of those guys who would get there and say, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm not going to be here. I don't care. I'm going to go make war on the white man. And they're taking our land, and I'm going to fight back. Whereas a lot of the other chiefs were saying, hey, wait a minute. I know this isn't going well for us. We're dying off. They want to put us on a reservation and they won't kill us. Maybe we should do what they say because we're outnumbered. And Geronimo was more like, wow, they're starving us. Let's go kill them all. Let's go burn their houses and raid the fields and, take their horses and burn their houses down. We can beat them. I'll fight to the very end. That's kind of how, how it went. F. Kitty is in the house. She says Spanish or Mexicans. According to the book I read, they're talking about the Mexicans. I think by this time it was the Spanish had literally turned it over. It became Mexican more at this point, even though it was still Spanish. I mean, it was conquered by the Spanish, but I think in all reality eventually became Mexican, and that's how they referred to it in the book. David, you got any idea? What are your thoughts on Mexican or Spanish?
Oh, Mexican with the Spanish influence. Hey,
okay.
Richmond. So I mean, Mexican is Spanish in a different way,
Yeah.
So the language that is, and so the native folks still spoke, Cherokee or whatever, and whereas you cross the Rio Grande, more or less, and they were all speaking a Spanish type dialect.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm actually with Spanish. Scotty Boy agrees with you. A Mexican with a Spanish influence. Yes. Okay, good deal. Let's see. Anyway, just a big shout out to everybody. Lucky Stone is in the house. Scotty Boy, Elderberry, Chloe is in the house. She says it's good to see you. Let's see who else is here tonight. Chris Smith is in the house. Thank you for joining us tonight. F. Kitty, Sunset Dreamer. I'm sure he's listening there in the background because he's not typing as fast. Cheech and Chong's. Love that movies. Cheech and Chong's. Chloe says, I'm Mexican American, so I can say it. There you go.
So she's a Tex-Mex.
You're a Tex-Mex. Is that the proper saying for that, Tex-Mex?
No.
Oh, is that food? That you're talking about? That's food. Right. I've heard of that before. It says, oh no, that's the wrong. Catholic. Oh, here it is. Mexican Americans love tacos and burritos. Mexican Americans. There you go. I didn't know that. Well, good deal.
I had friends of mine that are no longer with us, but she was pure bleed Mexican, and I'd go over to her house and she'd make dinner, and I'd be like, "What's this? What's that?" And so the Mexican dinners that she made were not Tex-Mex. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just, tacos into something. Oh no, they were elaborate meals and really good. I don't like Taco Bell, but boy, I sure liked her cooking.
Yeah, some people can. Cooking's a lost art. I can cook, but there's a lot of people that don't cook anymore. They fast food, quick meals, microwave it and eat it. Have it delivered to your house, throw it in a pot with the directions, and call it a day. I still know how to peel a potato and make it into something that will make you go, wow, that was great. Chloe says, my mama's an awesome cook. There you go. Anyway, okay, back to what I was talking about. They would live on almost nothing. And then they would live on almost everything. They would eat crickets if they had to. They would, grass, crickets, drink water out of mud holes to survive. But they could hunt the antelope and the buffalo all at the same time. And we're going to check back in. We're going to go back to that book, and we're going to learn some things about things today. But I just wanted to bring that up because I've been listening to all these things, the stories of Geronimo and how he was, quite the fighter, and Cochise and Victorio, great leaders of their time. It's really kind of sad, though, in a way, that the only leaders that we know of are the ones once the Americans started settling the West and had to fight them in order to get to know them. And I can't imagine how many great leaders there were before that that we have no record of, and which is kind of sad because their culture was changing so much. So, a lot of the Apaches, already knew how to speak Spanish. That was like their second language. Even though they couldn't speak English, they could speak Spanish. And the military, the army, when Crook, went there to have some of them surrender and sign treaties and stuff, they would bring up another a translator because there wasn't many people who could translate English into Apache language. So they would translate from American into Spanish, and then somebody would translate Spanish into Apache. So it was can you imagine having a talk like that? I talk to him, he talks to him, and then he talks to him, he translates it, and it goes backwards. And nowadays, you can just put the little thing in your ear, and somebody speaks a language, and it translates it in like a second, no matter what language you got. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
How far we've come. It's like, oh, you speak Spanish? I put the thing in my ear, and like, oh, I can understand you perfectly. It's just like from sci-fi movies, whatever movie that was. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, there were several of them. They just put the thing in their ear and they can understand everybody, and it's like, Holy cow! How did that happen?
How did that happen? Yep.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Witch Moon says, sure missed you all last week. I know I missed you too. Sorry, I had to work. I did put up a thing, and let you all know that I was working. I would have rather been doing the show, as you know. Um, let's see. Mexicans spoke their own language until the Spanish showed up. Yeah, well, the Mexicans were Indians of some sort too. Remember that the Spaniards took over the Mayans and the Incas and the all of them and
The Aztec.
the Aztecs exactly, and converted them to Spanish, converted them converted their religion, and built missions all over the country, in all the way up into New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and into California. And then
all the way up in California. Yep.
Yeah, and they built these missions, which are some of them are still standing to this day, and they use the slave labor of the natives of the land and convert them to Christianity, and then use that labor to build their mission churches and stuff like that, which were quite monumental buildings, considering most of the people out there lived in grass huts, teepees, or adobe style buildings. And all of a sudden you're building this giant church with a bell, and teaching Christianity, dressing differently, people coming from a foreign country. And the original Spanish were more white than they were of color. They weren't they were basically white men.
Yep.
So anyway.
And you said slave labor, and how they weren't chained together. Well, some of them were, because they had prisoners, but they used religion as their way to train the population, because if you don't help us out, God's going to get you. And if you don't do this, and God wants the church done, and then so the Jesuits were masters at controlling people by that method. Once they taught them about Jesus, now if you go against Jesus, God's going to smite you like He did Moses and them. And they're all like, holy crap, we better be nice.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's how they got. People say, well, how did them Mexicans just go along with it? Well, because they were terrified. They were, the Jesuits used religion to keep them in line.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, is the Mexicans were converted, and this was over hundreds of years. You remember, they came into the Mexican coast area and stuff around the early 1500s, and so they had our timeline picks up around the 1700s, and by this time people had horses. They had 200 years to by this point in life here. It's you're into the 1800s now. They had 200 years. These people had no recollection of their own nationality. There is no more Aztecs. There is no more Mayans. There is no more, these little Indian villages. It's all Spanish. 200 years they conquered. They changed their language, changed their religion, and they were moving on to keep on doing it.
Yep, and there's more information being brought up that the Chinese were in Mexico before Cortez and them.
Yes.
Because they came in on the Pacific side. So, all of if you stop and think about it for a second, all of the history is related to the east coast of Mexico and the Yucatan.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, from the Gulf of Mexico's side. You very rarely, if ever, hear about what happened along the Pacific coast way back when. And they're finding that the Chinese were over here in 1300s.
Yep. Yeah. Well, they had maps, but remember we went through a session about maps, and they had a map from the 1400s of the east and the west coast, long before Columbus had even landed. So, it just tells you that they were explorers. They mapped it all out already.
And see, and also we discussed this way back when, last year, that Columbus and them, they had secrets, like some maps. So the story's been told that he was heading for the edge of the world. Everybody said, you're gonna fall off, you're gonna be dead, you'll never come back. When actually, they had a pretty good idea what was over there.
Yes, the
as
people
we discussed before.
The Columbus knew, maybe his crew didn't, but Columbus knew. He had enough information. He may have not been there before, but he sure did know. It's funny. Scotty Boy says, oh, hey, come on. I clicked it too fast. He says San Diego still has Spanish town. San Diego is a Spanish town. San Francisco, Spanish town. Los Angeles is a Spanish town. All of these places are Spanish. That's why they're named the way they are. That's Las Vegas, because it's Spanish. We just once the Spanish were defeated in the war, they moved out, and the Americans moved in, took it over. We planted our flag. That's just the way it is, and people don't see. This is how we lose our history, because nobody studies it. Kit Carson. Everybody knows Kit Carson. He fought the Spanish in the Mexican-American War there, in the early 1800s. They were fighting this war. Texas fought the war. The Alamo. What do you think this was all over? The Spanish were coming up. They already had missions. The Alamo was one of those missions that were already built.
Yep.
So
and the Mexican culture had made it all the way up through Texas, up into Kansas and Oklahoma and along in there. So, it wasn't that they just hung around, in the below Texas or in Texas.
Yep.
So, there were a lot of folks that were, traversing those that land a bit, and they did a lot of trading too.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what F. Kitty says, even in Utah, Laverkin, Utah, that would be a Spanish town. There you go. And here, Texas was pushing south too. Yep. And Texarkana wanted to be their own country. Yep. That's true. That's why Texas is they call it the Republic of Texas, because technically they could secede in a crazy way, I guess. But it's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about if this Texas is seceding or not. And we're talking about these natives and where they're going. Well, we're going to talk about Indian custom. Here we're going to go back to this book. If you guys haven't remembered, this is the book, and we are going to talk about. Let's see if I can find my guy. There we go. And I put this up, and I've lost my place. There we go. Anyway, present. Yes. So tonight we're going to continue on with reviewing the book. This is Herman Lehman, 9 years among the Indians from 1870 to 1879. It was a story of his captivity and life of a Texan among the Indians. Now, he was of German descent. He was captured as a young man of 10 years old. And yeah, he became a native, in his own right. And he was adopted by Quanah Parker. And here he is as an old man, still portraying the Indian. He really lived the Indian ways. Quanah Parker adopted him as a son in the end. Let's see. He's got markers. He's quite famous. Anyway, he lived a long time in his 70s. Like I said, he did his thing. And we're going to be talking about him today. He lived into the like the 30s, which is amazing. As you can see by his gravestone here, 1932. So think about that. This guy was running around with the Indians back in the day, and like 20 years before you were born, he died. 20 years. If you were 20 years older, you could have met this guy that was running around with Indians, shooting at the white man and scalping people. Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it really makes you think about our timeline and how crazy our timeline really is. I mean, we think about it as oh my gosh, the Indians, the cowboys and Indians, that was so long ago. But really, it wasn't. It really was not that long ago. Very short time ago. Pa Joe's in the house. There you go. Let's see. He says real roads run through California connecting the missions, and it was the first paved roads. It's about 600 miles long. Interesting. Good evening, Midwest Mania Outdoors, Justin James. There you go. Yeah, when Scotty Boy says 32 doesn't sound that early when you think your dad was born in 38. Yeah, that's exactly it. You start thinking about it, how little time that was ago, a little over 100 years ago, 120, 30 years ago, you could have been on the plains seeing Indians running around. In the cosmic theory of everything, it's a blink of an eye, a minute.
Look what's happened just since the 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're going to look back and, I can already look back from when I was a kid and all the stuff we had. And today it's like, it's all old tech, console TVs and all that stuff. But anyway, we're going to go glimpses of Indian customs. That's this chapter. He says, we began preparations for a great festival. Now, among this festival, we had to undergo 7 days. This is how tough these people. We're going to have a festival, everyone. 7 days of fasting. Then 7 strong, robust Indians were selected to dance continuously for 7 days and nights without partaking of any food except a moist root prepared especially for this festival. Can you imagine? I mean, most of us can't go a day or two without eating something, but these people, well, they were going 7 days and nights without any food, and then these guys went another 7 days and except a little bit of moist root, I guess, to keep them hydrated. And then the medicine men performed many juggling tricks. So the medicine men were doing that. Things that no other man could, such as they would stick knives, like, see, this is the thing, in our society, men walk on tight wires like a circus act. They juggle, they breathe fire, they do all these crazy things, and we just sit in awe as they perform magic tricks. Well, when you don't have much, you do with what you got, right? They would stick knives into their bodies, and without bringing blood. How you do that, I don't know. They cut great gashes in their legs, and no blood would flow. I don't know how they did that either. Then we would all eat apples, not just any apple, but they had apples. These apples grew on the cactuses, and I got a picture of what these apples would be.
Prickly pears.
Yes.
That's what they're called.
Yes,
and
but
they're pretty good.
They are. Never had one. I'll have to look for them now. I didn't know. They would eat small apples that grew on the cactus found in the mountains of Mexico, and of great value among the Indians. They made a preparation for these apples called hoosh. We ate nothing but hoosh for 4 days. And we felt so light and happy that we loved everybody and wanted to fly away. Making me cough. This plant, which grows in Mexico, which is called peyote and is held in great veneration for the Indians. We talked about peyote.
Yep.
It is quite possible that the medicine men used this in preparation of the hoosh. So they were spiking the hoosh. Even back in the day.
They were literally floating on air.
Well, we know that alcohol affects Indians way more than the white man. And that, if you're eating nothing for 7 days, and then all of a sudden you start eating these apple things, and maybe making a hoosh or like a punch drink out of it or something, and then spike it with a little bit of drugs or the peyote, boy, everybody's going to be just flying,
Yeah, and then peyote is one of them things that's, it's like LSD and ayahuasca. I mean, I've had it before, long time ago. And talk about getting high.
Yeah. Let's see. Everybody's saying certain sounds like a part. Yeah. Savagely's in the house. They grow in the nopals, prickly pears. Yes. Let's see. Red fruit that grows on cactus. Yep. Prickly pears in abundance in the San Fernando Valley. Oh, it grows over in Utah, says F. Kitty.
Well, see, and I've got a cactus in my yard.
Yeah.
And so there are cacti. I know where there's one that's about that big right there in that picture. It's a huge one. It's sitting on the corner near where one of my friends used to live. Yeah, savagely, that's right. More like magic mushrooms. I would agree with that. It's organic, where the AD isn't.
Yep.
But yeah, they must have been flying low.
Yeah. Let's see. So anyway, the medicine men did this. Then the medicine would claim things. They would claim to control the atmosphere and command the rains to come. Well, of course, you know how that goes. Can they do that or not? Well, sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. They would get up there on the highest point and they would wave a cow's tail and chant for rain. I can imagine them waving a cow's tail and chanting for rain. But guess what? If it failed, then they would blame it on something else. Well, one time, they would say it was blamed, and they would have to provoke the Great Spirit. Something happened. Of course, if it ain't working, I'm waving that cow's tail. Rain, rain, you son of a gun, rain. It ain't happening. It must be something we're doing. And one time, it was there were some Mexicans, and they were staying with them. And the medicine man came down, and he looked around, and he said, "Hey, it's the Mexicans. It's them. They're causing it not to rain." So they bound the Mexicans firmly. Can you imagine? Here we're camping out with these Apaches. Everything is good. We've been partying with them. Things are good. You know.
Hey, it's your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. Hey, grab them, tie them up. And they bound them hand and foot with rawhide. You know, you can't break rawhide. They carried them up on top of a mountain and bound them to a flat rock. And near them was staked a large rattlesnake. The snake was placed just near enough to strike the Mexican whenever he moved. Can you imagine that? We returned to camp, and the incantations were repeated. Rain, rain. You imagine this? And they were repeated, and all of a sudden, a water spout came. Our wigwams, it rained so hard, our wigwams were washed away, and one white child captive was drowned. Several horses went down in the raging torrent, which rushed down down in the valley and into our camp, and then we had to flee to the mountain for safety. Isn't that something? I guess those Mexicans getting bit by a rattlesnake were well worth it, right?
Oh, man.
I mean, you know, I mean, we know today that it doesn't take Mexicans getting bit by a rattlesnake but I guess in the way of the shaman or the medicine man, they would be saying something like, "He big medicine there. I did the right thing. See, I made it rain. Yeah. I just couldn't control how much there was." Yeah, so few of us got killed off because I made it rain too much.
Yeah, we overdid it just a little bit. That last dance, we should have backed off, you know.
Yeah, a little bit too much. I yelled and whipped that cow tail a little bit too hard. But, you know, as Indians go, Indians could forecast the weather by spider webs. Now, you look at that spider web and you tell me what the weather is going to be. In dry weather, the web was thin and long and high, but just before the rain came, the web was low and short and thick. I suppose that's because it got a lot of dew, you know. So next time you guys are out and you see a spider web, look at that spider web and you can tell if it's going to rain. Now you know the trick. You know, just look at that spider, look at the web. I know you're listening, Lucky. Your spiders making webs, or well, you got big spiders, don't you? They don't make webs. But anyway, you know what kind of spider. I see a spider, I run the other way. I am not a spider guy. Put it that way.
Me neither.
Yeah. Remember how I was telling you about how there's no accident. No accident. If an Indian kills an Indian, there's no accident, right? So here's one that I jotted down. One morning, an Indian he put on, you know how they put on the skin of an antelope or a deer or whatever, and they go hunt them, right? Try to sneak around, get all close. Well, antelope are really, really hard to hunt because, you know, they're fast and they're always looking around and you know, that's what they do. They run. That's their only thing. They run.
And they're
run.
high alert at all times.
That's right. Well, one day, an Indian put on an antelope skin, went out on all fours to surprise and kill an antelope. He crawled out to within 100 yards of where there was a fleet-footed animal where they were grazing. And he killed another disguised Indian. Go figure. He went back to camp in grief and told what had happened. As the Indian was related to a relative of Carnivus, Carnivus, he started to kill the Indian because, you know, retribution. You killed my relative. There are no accidents. Now you must die too. It's the law. It's but anyway, an Indian squaw of the deceased stepped in and between them and saved his life. Guess you can do that. Anyway, there's all kinds of, now I don't know if you don't live out west. Maybe some of you people that live out west could tell me about a snake. Here he says there's a kind of snake, that infests that region, and sometimes they're like, its bite is almost sure death. These snakes nearly always went in pairs. If you killed one, its mate would trail you up and they would bite you, even though you were miles from the dead mate. It was told that a young Indian who was just married killed one of these snakes and traveled on and camped that night with his young wife. The snake companion trailed him, and as soon as the moon was straight overhead, the serpent pierced its fangs into the throat of his Indian bride, and she died immediately. Now, what kind of snake is that? Well, this Indian quit the tribe and spent the remainder of his life hunting and killing these snakes. Who knows? Maybe he made them extinct. But there you go. Maybe F. Kitty says, sounds like the myths of the Mojave Greens. I don't know what kind of snake it is because he just didn't say. But it must be a snake that lives in the desert areas or the highlands or something. But apparently, they are very venomous. You get bit, you die. There you go. Something like that. Anyway, they were talking about wildfires. What happens when a wildfire comes down and you don't be able to call the fire department? You know, people don't think about that. Fire's coming. Speaking of fires in LA and all that stuff. Anyway, let's see. Scotty Boy's never heard of that. So, sidewinder, non-venomous types. But anyhow, anyway, what happens is when you don't have a fire department call, everybody gets together. And there was grass, the grass is burning. We smelled smoke and a great fires coming on the prairie. And so they pulled the grass out. Remember, they pulled the grass out by hand, and then they cleared it away, and they burned all around the camp to check the fire. Basically a back burn to keep from reaching our camp. The blaze reached within 50 feet of our camp. The smoke was bad. Some of our horses broke away and were lost. Snakes, deer, antelope, wolves, and other animals rushed into our place of refuge. Thousands of animals perished in the flames. When one old squaw's eyesight was destroyed and many of the children succumbed to the heat. And can you imagine? You have the sanctuary, and there you are fighting the fire. The flames are coming, and the animals are running into your camp. I can't even imagine. Snakes, deer, antelope, wolves are all coming into your camp for safety. Kind of crazy like, right? Must have been a sight to see if you only had a camera from back in the day.
Oh, yeah, there must have been something. I mean, most of us have seen, the flames out there in California that's going on. And imagine that coming at you along with all of the critters. I mean, if you ever watched the movie Bambi, where Mama and all of the critters are running from the flames and the bear and the this and that's what it was in real life, and while I'm sitting here, so I'll just take 30 seconds and say a prayer for them folks out yonder. Yes. Because they got cheated and they've lost their homes and everything. They got cheated. So, dear Lord, keep an eye on them folks out in California. We thank you for helping them out and give them the strength to get through it all. Amen. But I had a house burned down too. I woke up at like 12:30 in the morning, and the whole ceiling was on fire, and we lost everything. I mean everything. And the idea that these folks have, it's bad for one house to burn down, but to watch all of this destruction, and all of the people who have lost everything. Thousands of people have lost everything. And
Yeah.
that's, unless you've had it happen to you, you don't know what that feels like. So, I continue to pray for them folks out there, because as this is going on, um, they're going to have some PTSD over this. And some
Oh, yeah.
folks are, my pictures are gone, my favorite album, my record collection, my books, whatever. And it's for those folks, it's all gone. And I know what that feels like. So, same thing with hurricane. But the hurricane is rough. So are tornadoes. Chris, prayers to you. I've been saying prayers because, for me, having had a house burned down, watching those fires, I remember the volunteer fire department coming out to our house, and it was an old log cabin with pine trees, and it was fat lighter. And when that sucker caught fire, they said there's no sense in wasting water, and we just had to stand there and watch it burn. So I know what that feels like. And the flames were 75 feet in the air. So I can imagine what them folks are going through. So Chris, what, 240 billion in damage? It's going to be more than that. It's
Yeah.
going to be more than that. But God
Yeah.
bless you, Chris.
I was thinking about the fires today, and I was thinking, a lot of people don't understand, but as with most people, since it was such a big area, most people don't move away. If your parents, living on 3 streets down, you might buy a house 4 streets down. You know what I'm saying? They live in
Yeah.
the same general vicinity or the neighborhood or whatever, because that's what people do. I don't want to be far away or blah blah blah. So if something would happen to your house, you go stay with your relatives or your family members or something like that. But I'm thinking in my head, well, all their family members who may have lived close by, their houses were burnt too.
Yeah.
There is no family member. They're all looking for someplace. Then I kept thinking, well, okay, well, now if they want to go somewhere, all of a sudden they have nowhere to go. All these people are displaced. They can't all rent hotel rooms for the next couple of years till their house is rebuilt. It's going to take a long time to, clear out all the stuff, get construction crews in and all that stuff to rebuild, if they're going to rebuild it all. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was listening to Adam Carolla this morning, and he was like, down there, I've not been to that part of California. But he's like, we're going to need folks to do stucco. He said, they're going to have to bring in people. Where are they going to stay? He says, everything's filled up, and there's nobody that lives here that has the craftsmanship. They need builders. Them
Yeah.
folks that lived around up there worked in the film industry kind of thing. And so down here in the South, a lot of folks know how to build something. But so he was saying, the amount of people it's going to take to just start to rebuild. It's going to take, he was like, it's going to take, whole crews of Mexicans to come up here and do the framing and put the roof on, and he said, but where they're going to stay, what are they going to eat, where are the restaurants, and so it's like, yeah, buddy,
Yeah.
it's going to be something.
Well, and that's the thing too, is if you want to hire somebody, they're going to have to hire thousands and thousands of people to go in there and do that.
Yeah.
The thing is the prices of, if you got homeless people that are filling up the hotels or the empty spaces now because they're homeless, you try to get a crew of people in there. Say you're going to ship somebody from Georgia where you're at, and you got this crew and you ship them out there. Where are they going to stay?
Right.
Because all the places are full because those people were already displaced. Now your construction crew, what, they stay in a tent? Well, the construction hardworking guys got to stay in a tent and use a porta potty. But then, because we're in California, we have to pay them an extravagant amount of money. And now that house is going to cost 10 times what it costs to, before to build now. I mean, if that house costs $1 million, it's going to cost $2 million to build. I don't know. I'm just saying. Anyway, we're not here to talk about money and LA and building. And the point is, fire is fire. And when fire comes, everybody gets displaced. And I was just talking about these animals, how when you have even the natives didn't look at it and go, oh, look, we'll clear a space and all the animals will run in and we'll just have a feast today. Look at the antelope come running in, we'll eat them, and the wolves will kill them. And, they were like giving them a place to sanctuary to stay because they cleared out a space and saved themselves from the fire. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So, okay, one more story out of this book, and then we'll get on to your story here. But, okay, so now he goes on about chasing a buffalo. Oh, wait a minute. This ain't the buffalo one. This is about a horse. So, oh, no, this is the buffalo one. Sorry. I was looking down. I see horse. Anyway, he rode a mule. I didn't realize how many mules they rode out there, because we always just assume it was an Indian pony or this or that, but they did have a lot of mules, lots and lots of mules. Anyway, him and another Indian, Bacona, something like that. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Sorry, I just can't pronounce names. They went hunting. Him on a dun mule and his buddy on a swift, manageable pony, meaning some Indian pony. Anyway, they found a buffalo and made a fight with him. And the buffalo, because buffalo are mean and they're very aggressive, and it took after the little dun mule that he was on, and he spurred and whipped the mule and aggravated the mule. And the mule, being a mule, didn't want to go. And he would go until he didn't go until he got ready to go. And then he went on his own pace until the buffalo got right behind him. But his buddy on the little Indian pony, he darted and goaded the buffalo, and he started shooting arrows into it. Imagine shooting arrows in this big 2,000-pound buffalo that's trying to gore and kill you. And remember, these are two little kids that are, he's probably 12 or 13 years old by now. And it's distracting the attention from killing the mule, and he's shooting his arrows in. And he made one good shot, but the furious beast kept coming. Yeah. So the Indian rode between us and shot the buffalo again. But he was so close with the ride, the buffalo gored the horse. Now remember, they got big horns, and I know from working at a ranch where they had buffalo, one big bull could take a 1,200-pound round bale and toss it like a basketball all over the place. Just hit that thing, and with its horn, just throw it up in the air. Well, this buffalo hit the horse with his horn, and he gored it. The buffalo staggered and fell right under the mule, because remember, he was shooting arrows at it. And the pony ran a short distance and it fell dead. Wow. Well, they ran a bit and he made a dash. Let's see. He says he gored the horse. The buffalo staggered and fell right under the mule, where they thought it was dead. And the pony ran a short distance and it fell dead. I hitched the mule, and meaning he tied it up, and he went to the skin to skin the buffalo because he figured it was dead. It fell down, but the shaggy beast was not dead. He says it jumped up and made a dash for the Indian, but the Indian was too quick, and the animal tumbled over a small bluff, breaking its neck in the fall. Can you believe that? Wow.
And there is the rest of the story.
Well, yeah, can you imagine battling? I know what it is. It's a buffalo is scary. They will charge you. They're trying to kill you. That's their, and it's not like oh, hey, and they try to, do the buffalo thing. They will try to kill you. He says, in one of his other adventures with horses, he says the Braves captured a large, fat Mustang stallion. They tied him down, meaning the horse. They blindfolded the stallion, and they bound me securely on him, meaning they tied him right to the horse. That's kind of dangerous, people. Trust me, I've rode plenty of horses, and you do not want to be tied onto a horse. It's better to fall off. Okay. Then they bound me on the horse, and several Indians mounted their swift horses. The stallion was released. He looked around, and he bit my arm. And I know they do that. They'll turn real quick. Their neck, you don't think they can do it, but their neck can turn right around and bite you. And I've been bitten before like that. Okay.
But they don't just turn their neck, they kind of move their body around too. So yeah, absolutely. They'll nip you good too.
Yes. So anyway, he bit him good. And he yelled, and the horse took off across the plains and over the roughs, jumping gullies and running for dear life. Now remember, he's probably more than likely bareback. I assume he's bareback. He's tied on this horse. He can't do anything. He came to a deep ditch, which the horse cleared in a bound. The Indians followed, but they couldn't even keep him in sight. That's how fast the stallion was running. Remember, the stallions usually got a little more energy than the rest of the horses. The stallion ran for about 10 miles. Now, running for 10 miles, I tell you what, I ran my horse maybe a mile. I remember there was this dirt road we raced on, and by the time we got to the end of that road, most all the horses were dead dog tired and ready to walk. Even my horse that had more energy than I ever thought, and by the time he got to the end, he was ready to walk. There was no more running. But these horses were much fitter. And he's saying they ran for about 10 miles. Holy cow. You know how far 10 miles is on a horse? You don't get it. 10 miles is like, after the first mile, you're thinking, oh boy. Second mile, you're probably thinking, this will never end. But I can't even fathom what 10 miles of straight running is. I can't. And I've rode for years. They couldn't keep the horse in sight, and the stallion ran for 10 miles. And he leaped another ditch finally. By this time, I'm sure the horse was getting really tired. And he leaped the ditch. He stumbled and fell to his knees, and he threw me off. And he was up in a bound, and he flirted away as light as he did on his first mile. And I never seen or heard from him till this day. I lay there suffering with my arm. Remember, he bit his arm. And he lay there till one of the other Indians that was pursuing him finally came up and saved him. His horse was run down, and then the other party came up. They doctored me, and they laughed, and they bound my arm, and one of them took put him behind me, or put me behind, he says, and rode me back to the camp. And I thought, oh my goodness. Well, and that's where I'm going to end off. We were going to do the gold mine tonight, but I'm going to skip the gold mine. We'll have to save that for next week. But just reading this story and listening to his adventures, it's like, holy cow, how dangerous can you get? I mean, just put me on a horse, tie me on, and yeehaw! Talk about cowboy fun. I don't even know if I could do that. But anyway,
that'd be some goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
Oh, the thing is, back in the day, I was wild and crazy on those horses too, but I don't think I could do that as much anymore. I mean, I still got my colt to break this year, and I'm really worried that I don't want to get bucked off again. My bones are going to hurt a lot more. Skyboy says, I don't think for 1 second a horse don't know what it's doing. Yeah, horse knows what it's doing. Once in a while, they do stupid stuff. When they get tired, they start doing stupid things. Mules are, yes. Jose Flores. Mules are biters. Yes, they are. And they're kickers. You know what the thing is about a mule? Mule doesn't forget. I know Sunset Dreamer. He I don't know if he's still listening, but he had a mule. He had the best mule in the world. I tell you, that was the best mule in the world. It was well trained, and it just happened to die of bad circumstances. Yeah, the neighbor was shooting in the sky, and the bullet landed down and fell on its head and killed it dead, just like that. Where just as it was walking, he had grass in his mouth and just up and died. Poor mule. But that was the best mule ever. He trained that thing. But mules can be biters. They're biters. They're kickers. They, normally a horse kicks out like this, right? But a mule kick to the side. And mule kicked this, and mules don't forget either. So if you beat that mule today, he will retaliate on you another day because he don't forget that you beat him. So yeah. So anyway, that's the way it goes. But I had a team of pulling mules. They were small. They weren't very big, but they were good mules. I had a little red wagon, and I hitch them to it and do wagon rides in town. One was a good puller, and the other one was really lazy. That mule that Sunset Dreamer had, I feel bad. He did the training on that thing, and that was a good mule. Wish I had a picture of it. I'd show y'all, but I probably did. Anyway, the mule, I would love to get a mule. Really, I would, if I seen a mule that was nearby within 200-300 miles of me, I would go and pick that thing up in a heartbeat. So that's what I have to say. So next week we'll continue on. Anybody else have a mule out there? Lucky says, I rode a runaway horse for about 4 miles, and when I fell off, he turned around and came back. I thought for sure I was going to get it trampled. He just stopped and stood next to me. It was weird. No, that's what horses do. I had one of our first horses we got. His name was Charlie. And you'd get on, and he would do that. He would run, and he would start crow hopping and bucking. And when you fell off, he would just stand there and look at you, dead in the eye, sniff at you a little bit or something. He would just like, okay, you're going to get on me again. And sure enough, you'd get on, and he'd do the same thing over. And you'd fall off, and he'd look at you like, okay. And so we called the guy up that we bought him from. And he said, Mr. Don, his name was Don Johnson of all people. Don Johnson, you come on over here. And Don Johnson showed up, and Don Johnson had a big beard like yours. And he wore a pretty good sized cowboy hat. And he's looking at that horse, and he's doing this thing with his beard. And Oh, that's a good horse, that Charlie horse, he says. I don't know. I just don't believe that horse bucks, he says. Well, you know, all good horsemen always have some young lad alongside of them, because that Don Johnson guy is not going to get on that horse and ride it around and buck it out and make sure and tell you that that thing rides. He brings his helper, Kevin, some young guy who had red as hair as could burn the sky. And he says, you get on that horse and run it down to the end of the road and run it back. And Kevin, like a whip, jumps on that horse, swings it around, and runs to the end of the freaking road. And we're standing there all in awe, like, holy cow, he ran that horse to the end of the road. It didn't buck. Well, little Kevin there, he run that horse all the way back. And he got about halfway back up the road, and that horse come to pitching and the bucking. And old Kevin's just hanging on there. He was quite the cowboy, all right. And he didn't fall off, but he grabbed the neck of that horse, and he's hanging there. And he literally, once the horse stopped the buck and old Charlie stopped, he just stepped right off. And that was the story of Charlie the bucking horse. And Don Johnson looks at us and he says, well, I think you got a point there. He says, I think that horse does buck. He says, I'll tell you what I'll do. For another $200, I got a nice, good black mare that I'll sell you. That's 10 times the horse that Charlie is. And you know what? We were young and stupid cowboy people that didn't know anything about horses at the time. My parents. And of course, I was only like 12 years old. But anyway, the point is, okay, we're going to buy that horse. Bring it on over. Here's the $200. And Don Johnson brought us a horse over, and that horse didn't buck. But tell you what, her name was Star. It was all black, and she had a little star on her forehead. And he says, we didn't even know what this was, but he says, she's pretty good. She likes to run. She's an ex-barrel racer. Now, we didn't know what barrel racing was. But I tell you what, we put that saddle on her, and boy, would she run and run and run and run. And she just didn't like to stop anywhere. She just run until she just got so tired she couldn't run anymore. There you go. My horse stories for tonight.
Well, could you stop her?
Not much, no.
So once you got on, you better point her in the right direction, or you're going to be a long way out of the way.
Yeah, she would just run and run and run.
Go
and run
north, not south. Go north.
Yeah. She loved to run. We had this little trail that went around the property, and we'd get on that, and she would just run around that property. Boy, it was like a little racetrack, right? You know, and It was probably about a quarter mile long. And boy, if you were going, you got on, she'd run around that whole thing and meet you back at the house. That's if you managed to stay on long enough. But if you hold on real good, you'd make it back to the house. And sometimes she'd just run into the barn, you know, and there you go. You did your ride. Woohoo! As long as you didn't run her. So if you walked her, she was good. But once you started to run her, you're not stopping her. That. Oh, I don't know. You missed out on all that fun horse stuff, I tell you. Whew. Did we? Yep. She would work up a lather, and we didn't even know what lather was. It's like, oh my God, there's some white stuff all over my horse. Yeah.
Yeah, where'd it come from?
Yeah, what is that? It's all the sweat stuff. Like, oh my gosh, she gonna die? It's Black Beauty all over again. Don't water that horse, kid. My dad, I don't want that thing to die. Oh boy, she had these big flat feet, and she had big flat hooves, and we couldn't figure out why she had such big flat hooves. And old Don Johnson told us, he says, well, she's got those big flat hooves there so that she can dig in when she turns around those barrels. That's what they're for. Oh, yeah. Okay, they're like big scoops, right? Yeah, because other horses had hoofs like this, and hers were like this. And I'm thinking, I don't know what they were for, but Yeah, she was old and she was fast, and we had her for quite a few years, and a lot of people fell off. I fell off. I learned how to ride, boy, I tell you that. Whew, did I? But yeah, it was quite the horse. Man, do I remember that. I had a lot of horses. We had a lot of fun back in the day, man. Boy, I miss those days. I'd go back there anytime. Some were scary though, but yeah. Oh, Scotty boy, don't you dare say that. I love Arabs. Yeah, I had Arabs too, and oh my gosh, not not my favorite horse. I think I had one. Out of all the Arabs I had one that was okay. The rest of them, not so much. Not if that horse. If I bought a horse and it had a little, if it, I was going to, or I should say, if I was going to buy a horse and it has a dish nose, well, I'm not buying that horse. That's dog food horse. Anyway, okay, you're up.
There's glue factory in that horse's future.
That's right. There's a glue factory in that horse's future because, I don't want to be on that Arab. Them Arabs can run and run and run and run. They got a mind of their own. Put it this way: an Arabian horse is like a dog that's a one-person dog, and the dog likes to bite everybody but you. But once you get rid of that dog, he just bites everybody. Oh, okay, Chris Smith. Thank you for coming tonight. He says, I got to go deal with a tenant. Thank you for being here. I hope everything's better and the smoke clears up. And sorry for all those people in LA. Keep us posted. Yes, keep us posted.
Yeah.
Sunset Dreamer says, makes you a better cowboy. Yes, it did. Elderberry says, our horse was trained cutter, had a cool gait. She was trained well before we got her at the auction. 2-year-old, well trained at the gear for riding, $400. Yeah, that's a good deal. Back in the day, you could get a horse for $400 or $500, and yeah. Scotty Boy says he learned how to ride Arabians. Yeah, well, you're a better man for it. Beautiful horses, but unless they are trained, they are sketchy and put on. Yeah, well, trust me, I got a colt I got to break this year. So, who knows? One of these days I might show up and have a big old cast on my hair. You never know.
Yeah,
I'm jinxing myself. Don't say that. Anyway,
put a cast on before you go.
They're made for the desert. Nah, yeah. Well, I'm pretty good. I don't get bucked off very often. I'm bringing that. I got strong legs, and I just grip my legs around that horse's barrel and let him try to throw me. Ha! It's easier to stay on. Broke my tailbone kind of that way. I stayed on. I got bucked a lot, but I stayed on. I couldn't walk for a few days very good, but I stayed on. Well, you're up. Here's how summer came to Canada. It's all yours. And just don't forget to remember that Canada will be our 51st state, coming soon to a town near you.
Yep. Think about all that syrup.
For sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our first story for this for the 2025, and this story is in the book called Glooskap's Country and Other Indian Tales by Macmillan, Cyrus Macmillan, from 1922. How Summer Came to Canada. Once during Glooskap's lifetime and reign in Canada, it grew very cold. Everywhere there was snow and ice, and in all the land there was not a flower nor a leaf left alive. The fires that the Indians built could not bring warmth. The food supply was slowly eaten up, and the people were unable to grow more corn because of the hard, frozen ground. Great numbers of men and women and children died daily from cold and hunger, and it seemed as if the whole land must soon perish. Over the extreme cold, Glooskap had no power. He tried all his magic, but it was of no avail, for the cold was caused by a powerful giant who came into the land from the far north, bringing famine and death as his helpers. Even with his breath, he could blight and wither the trees so that they brought forth no leaves nor fruit, and he could destroy the corn and kill man and beast. The giant's name was Winter. He was very old and very strong, and he had ruled in the far north long before the coming of man. Glooskap, being brave and wishing to help his people in their need, went alone to the giant's tent to try to coax or bribe or force him to go away. But even he, with all his magic power, at once fell in love with the giant's home. For in the sunlight it sparkled like crystal and was of many wonderful colors. But in the night, under the moonlight, it was spotlessly white. From the tent, when Glooskap looked out, the face of the earth was beautiful. The trees had a covering of snow that gave them strange, fantastic shapes. The sky was filled by night with flashing, quivering lights, and even the stars had a new brightness. The forest, too, was full of mysterious noises. Glooskap soon forgot his people amid his new surroundings. The giant told him tales of olden times when all the land was silent and white and beautiful like his sparkling tent. After a time, the giant used his charm of slumber and inaction until Glooskap fell asleep, for the charm was the charm of the frost. For 6 months he slept like a bear. Then he awoke, for he was very strong, and winter could not kill him even in his sleep. But when he arose, he was hungry and very tired. One day, soon after he awoke, his talebearer, Tattler the loon, brought him good news. He told of a wonderful Southland far away, where it was always warm and where lived a queen who could easily overcome the giant. Indeed, she was the only one on earth whose power the giant feared. Glooskap, to save his people from winter and famine and death, decided to go to the Southland and find the queen. So he went to the sea, miles away, and sang the magic song that the whales obeyed. His old friend Blob the whale came quickly to his call. and getting on her back, he sailed away. Now the whale always had a strange law for travelers. She said to Glooskap, "You must shut your eyes tight while I carry you. To open them is dangerous, for if you do, I will surely go aground on a reef or a sandbar and cannot get off, and you may then be drowned." And Glooskap promised to keep his eyes shut. Many days the whale swam, and each day the water grew warmer, and the air grew gentler and sweeter, for it came from spicy shores, and the smells were no longer those of salt sea, but of fruits and flowers and pines. I lost my place. Soon they saw in the sky by night the Southern Cross. They found, too, that they were no longer in the deep sea, but in shallow water flowing warm over yellow sands, and that the land lay not far ahead. Blob the whale now swam more cautiously. Down in the sand, the clams were singing a song of warning, telling travelers in these strange waters of the treacherous sandbar beneath. "Oh, big whale," they said, "keep out to sea, for the water here is shallow, and you shall come to grief if you keep on to shore." But the whale did not understand the language of the little clams, and she said to Glooskap, who understood, "What do they sing?" But Glooskap, wishing to land at once, answered, "They tell you to hurry, for a storm is coming, to hurry along as fast as you can." Then the whale hurried until she was soon close to the land. Glooskap, wishing the whale to go aground so that he could more easily walk ashore, opened his left eye and peeped, which was contrary to the whale's laws. And at once the whale stuck hard and fast on the beach, so that Glooskap, springing from her head, walked ashore on dry land. The whale, thinking that she could never get off, was very angry and sang a song of lament and blame. But Glooskap put one end of his strong bow against the whale's jaw, and taking the other end with his hands, he placed his feet against the high bank, and with a mighty push, he sent old Blob again into the deep water. Then, to keep the whale's friendship, he threw her an old pipe and a bag of Indian tobacco leaves, for Glooskap was a great smoker, and the whale, greatly pleased with the gift, lighted the pipe and, smoking it, swam far out to sea. Glooskap watched her disappear from view until he could see only clouds of her smoke against the sky. And to this day, the whale has Glooskap's old pipe, and sailors often see her rise to the surface to smoke it in peace and to blow rings of tobacco smoke into the air. When the whale had gone, Glooskap walked with great strides far inland. Soon he found the way of which Loon had told him. It was the rainbow road that led to the wilderness of flowers. It lay through the land of the sunrise, beautiful and fresh in the morning light. On each side were sweet magnolias and palms, and of all kinds of trees and flowers. The grass was soft and velvety, for by night the dew was always on it, and snow and hail were unknown, and winds never blew coldly, for here the charm of the frost had no power. Glooskap went quickly along the flower-lined rainbow road until he came to an orange grove where the air was sweet with the scent of blossoms. Soon he heard sounds of music. He peered through the trees and saw that the sounds came from an open space not far ahead where the grass was soft and where tiny streams were flowing and making melody. It was lilac time in the land, and around the open space, all kinds of flowers in the world were blooming. On the trees, numberless birds were singing, birds of wonderfully colored feathers, such as Glooskap had never heard or seen before. He knew that he had reached at last the wilderness of flowers, of which old Tattler, the loon, had spoken. He drew deep breaths of honeysuckle and heliotrope and countless other flowers until he soon grew strong again after his long voyage. Then he crept close to the edge of the open space and looked in from behind the trees. On the flower-covered grass within, many fair maidens were singing and dancing, holding in their hands chains of blossoms like children in a maypole game. In the center of the group was one fairer than all the others, the most beautiful creature he had ever seen, her long brown hair crowned with flowers, and her arms filled with blossoms. For some time, Glooskap gazed in silence, for he was too surprised to move or to utter speech. Then he saw at his side an old woman, wrinkled and faded, but still beautiful, like himself watching the dance. He found his voice and asked, "Who are those maidens in the wilderness of the flowers?" And the old woman answered, "The maiden in the center of the group is the fairy queen. Her name is Summer. She is the daughter of the rosy dawn, the most beautiful ever born. The maidens dancing with her are her children, the fairies of light and sunshine and flowers." Glooskap knew that here at last was the queen whom by her charms could melt old Winter's heart and force him to go away, for she was very beautiful and good. With his magic song, he lured her from her children into the dark forest. There he seized her and held her fast by a crafty trick. Then, with her as a companion, he began his long journey north by land. That he might know the way back to the wilderness of flowers, he cut a large moose hide, which he always carried, into a long, slender cord. And as he ran north with Summer, he let the cord unwind behind him, for he had no time to mark the trail in the usual way. When they had gone, Summer's children mourned greatly for their queen. For weeks, the tears ran down their cheeks like rain on all the land. And for a short time, old Dawn, the queen's mother, covered herself with dark morning clouds and refused to be bright. After many days, still holding Summer in his bosom, for she loved him because of his magic power, Glooskap reached the Northland. He found none of his people, for they were all asleep under the giant's power, and the whole country was cold and lonely. At last he came to the home of Old Winter. The giant welcomed him and the beautiful girl, for he hoped to freeze them both and keep them with him always. For some time they talked together in the tent, but although he tried hard, the giant was unable to put them to sleep. Soon Old Winter felt that his power had vanished and that the charm of the frost was broken. Large drops of sweat ran down his face. Then his tent slowly disappeared, and he was left homeless. Summer used her strange power until everything that Winter had put to sleep awoke again. Buds came again upon the trees. The snow ran down the rivers, carrying away the dead flowers, and the grass and the corn sprang up with new life. And Old Winter, being sorrowful, wept, for he knew that his reign was ended, and that his tears were like the cold rain. Summer, the queen, seeing him mourn and wishing to stop his tears, said, "I have proved that I am more powerful than you. I give you now all the country to the far north for your own, and there I shall never disturb you. You may come back to Glooskap's country 6 months of every year and reign as of old, but you will be less severe during the other 6 months. I myself will come from the Southland and rule the land." Old Winter could do nothing but accept this offer gracefully, for he feared that if he did not, he would melt entirely away. So he built a new home farther north, and there he reigns without interruption. In the late autumn, he comes back to Glooskap's country and reigns for 6 months. But his rule is softer than in the olden times. And when he comes, Summer, following Glooskap's moose hide cord, runs home with her birds to the wilderness of flowers. But at the end of 6 months, she always comes back to drive Old Winter away to his own land, to awaken the northern land and to bring it the joys that only she, the queen, can give. And so, in Glooskap's old country, Winter and Summer, the hoary old giant and the beautiful fairy queen, divide the rule of the land between them. The end. Now, that's a very interesting story right there.
That was a good one. I like that. I mean, it really put together how a summer, why summer goes away for 6 months. You know what I mean?
And they, and And Glooskap wanted to help his people. So, he went and spoke to the queen, and, he did everything in the right way. He followed procedure, if you will. You know, he knew that his magic wasn't strong enough. And so he knew that he had to get help. And so he sought help to find out where he could get help. And then he went and sought that help. So,
Mm-hmm.
pretty sweet, ain't it?
It is. It is. I like that one. Big giant. Winter is a giant. Queen mother of the summer. Can't get away
Yeah,
with
and
that.
they didn't say how big she was.
Well, I can just imagine if he was a giant, that summer was summer was summer.
Yeah, she was just so beautiful she melted his heart. That's how that went.
Ah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, melted his heart. Just, and then he was such an old man like me that he was like, oh, she's so pretty. And next thing you know, he's in trouble.
Mhm.
Oh, well. So while things were um, yakking earlier, I pulled cards.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, we do have time. We're not at the 2 hour mark yet.
No, we got plenty of time. I'm just getting
Yeah,
myself
and
together.
I've been doing better with the card thing too. So
Yeah, well,
here's the ones that I pulled tonight.
when you
About
pull 5 or 6 cards, you got to be better at it. You read each one all the way through for every detail. We'd be here for 2 more hours.
That's right. So I've gotten much better, but
Yes.
I haven't left anything out.
No.
So the first one up is Otter. The next one up is Turtle, which is interesting. Both of them related to water. The next one is Dragonfly, upside down, still kind of related to water because Dragonfly likes, marshlands and stuff. So the next one up is Wolf, right side up, baying at the moon, and it's full moon. The next one is Crow, upside down. There's magic in them, their feathers. And the last is the Porcupine, upside down.
All
So
right.
let me get the book out. Let me get a drink of coffee, and I will start out. Otter is first, Turtle is second, Dragonfly is third,
Wolf, Crow. Now, see, Crow. Here's the thing: is a lot of times you'll pull Crow, and sometimes you pull Raven. And people got to remember, there's a big difference between Crow and Raven.
Yep, this is Crow.
Yeah, that's right.
Crow medicine. All right. So I gotta be able to see the numbers. Okay, there we go. All right, so first one up is Otter, and it's number 8 in the book. And Turtle is number 10, so they're close in. Otter is woman medicine. The medicine held by Otter is a set of lessons in female energy. And this female energy applies to both men and women. Otter is always on the move and is very curious. Unlike other animals, Otter will not start a fight unless it is attacked first. This joyful little critter is adventuresome and assumes that all other creatures are friendly. until proven otherwise. These character traits are the beauty of a balanced female side, the side of ourselves that creates a space for others to enter our lives without preconceptions or suspicions. I need to read that again. These character traits are the beauty of a balanced female side, the side of ourselves that creates a space for others to enter our lives without preconceptions or suspicions. And that's really important. It's like, oh, well, it's like, this is a really bad example, but to from a white person's point of view, back in the day, look at that black man over there. He's going to rape me, rob me, and kill me. And it's like, so the preconception is, that all black men are evil. We know that's not true. So, woman energy without games or control is a beautiful experience. It is the freeness of love without jealousy. It may be time to examine your feelings about sharing the bounty of your life with others. If you have drawn this symbol, Otter may be telling you to become the playful child and to simply allow things to unfold in your life. And that now that this is the first of the year, things are going to unfold in the year. So that kind of sort of makes sense. So next one up is Turtle, which is Mother Earth. In native teachings, Turtle is the oldest symbol for planet Earth. It is the personification of goddess energy. Now, see, we just left Turtle, I'm sorry, Otter, who is, female energy. So here's Turtle, Mother Earth, and the eternal mother from which our lives evolve. We are born of the womb of Earth, and to her soil our bodies will return, unless you get cremated. In honoring the earth, we are asked by Turtle to be mindful of the cycles of give and take, to give back to the mother as she has given to us. If you've chosen the turtle symbol, you are being asked to honor the creative source within you, to be grounded to the earth, and to observe your situation with motherly compassion. Ain't that interesting? Turtle is a fine teacher of the art of grounding. So, Otter and fleeting around and doing its thing, Turtle's telling you to put a foot down and dig it into the earth. Turtle warns of the dangers of pushing the river, as is evidenced by the plodding pace that the turtle keeps. Turtle buries its thoughts like its eggs in the sand and allows the sun to hatch the little ones. This teaches you to develop your ideas before bringing them out in the light. If you draw the turtle card, it augurs a time of connecting with the power of earth and the mother goddess within. There you go. Dragonfly is next, upside down, 27. Dragonfly is the illusion. Dragonfly medicine is a dream time in the illusionary facade we accept as physical reality. Some legends say that Dragonfly was once dragon, and that dragon had scales like butterflies' wings. Dragon was full of wisdom and flew through the night. The breath of dragon brought forth the art of magic and the illusion of changing form. And then dragon got caught in its own facade. Coyote tricked dragon into changing forms, and the shape of its new body became like dragonflies now. In accepting the challenge to prove its power and magical prowess, dragon lost its power. So the lesson with the dragonfly is that if you're trying to prove yourself to the world, if you're trying to push yourself, well, I'm good at this and I'm the best and that you might, by doing that, especially if you do it too much, you might actually lose your power. Are you trying to prove yourself or to someone else that you have power? Are you caught in an illusion that weakens your true feelings or minimizes your ability? If so, you contracted dragonfly dive bombing. Follow dragonfly to the place inside your body where the magic is still alive and drink deeply of its power. This strength belongs to you. And what is this magic? It's the ability to be able to think through things, to the ability to be able to control your own emotions. And people say, I don't know, it's hard for me to do that. But the thing is that once you learn, you can control your emotions and other things. And that is the power. So Wolf is number 15, and Wolf is like family, and it goes out and brings back medicine and teaches it to the rest, I think. Yep, Wolf is the teacher. So Wolf is the pathfinder, the forerunner of new ideas, who returns to the clan to teach and share medicine. Wolf takes one mate for life and is loyal like dog. In the great star nation, Wolf is represented by the dog star Sirius, which legend tells us the original home of our teachers in ancient times. The senses of Wolf are very keen, and the moon is its power ally. So, we're at the back end of full moon. So, oh, werewolves, London. The moon is the symbol for psychic energy or the unconscious that holds the secrets of knowledge and wisdom. If you've drawn Wolf's card, you may be able to share your personal medicine with others. Your intuitive side will know what to do. It is in sharing of great truths that the consciousness of humanity will attain new heights. I got to repeat that. It is in the sharing of great truths that the consciousness of humanity will attain new heights. Now, what I got to say about that is Trump's going to be, inaugurated next Monday. And there's already been a lot of truth come out. And so the fact that this says right here, the sharing of great truths, that the consciousness of humanity, not just you or me, but humanity, will attain new heights. So that's a good card. I see that one being there. The next one up is Crow, number 24. And it's upside down. But these upside down cards are not necessarily bad, It's like most of them are saying, get off your duff, So Crow is law. There is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept looking at it, scratching it, pecking at it, until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is dead Crow now. Since Crow is the keeper of sacred law, Crow can bend the laws of the physical universe and shapeshift. This ability is rare and unique. Dead Crow is the left-handed guardian. If you look deeply into Crow's eye, you will have found the gateway to the supernatural. Crow knows the unknowable mysteries of creation and is the keeper of all sacred law. All sacred texts are under the protection of Crow. Creator's Book of Laws or Book of Seals is bound in crow feathers. Crow feathers tell of spirit made flesh. Crow is also the protector of the Yogala, or the ancient records. Now, Crow upside down, a word to the wise at this point: make sure that if you are stepping on toes, you have some backup. The catalyst for a barroom brawl is usually the person with two black eyes. That is what it means to eat crow. Refusing to honor the shifts in your reality can cause emotional pain. An implosion of energy is apparent when rebellion surfaces. Contrary Crow speaks of broken law. The law of expansion is broken by suppression. Now, for a long time, we have the laws, even of common sense, have been, taken away from us. Not just Americans, but other folks too. So the idea that Contrary Crow here in this setup is talking about broken law. This may apply to a situation, an old habit, or a person you may have given your authority to. And we have given our authority away to some folks, and it's time for them to step up. So the next one up is porcupine number 12. Now, I know I've said this before, but porcupine is the Null family crest, or whatever that means. Porcupine is innocence. So that's interesting, coming, backed up with Crow and the sacred law. So the innocence of this. The south of the medicine wheel is the place of childlike innocence and humility. It is the home of playfulness, and playfulness is like otter. So the beginning and the end of this is both got playfulness in. Porcupine has many special qualities and a very powerful medicine. The power of faith and trust. Woo! The power of faith contains within it the ability to move mountains. The power of trust in life involves trusting that the Great Spirit has a divine plan. In pulling the porcupine card reversed, you are giving yourself a timely warning that you cannot win the game of life if you are too serious. In some area of your life, you may be feeling hurt or afraid of trusting again. It is possible that life has recently dealt you a hard blow? If this is so, it is time to begin again by placing faith in your ability to overcome the lesson with joy. Are you willing to trust yourself? If so, you might begin by writing down your feelings that come out of situations that you face. The ill-dignified porcupine is belly up with its quills stuck in the ground. This is a rather defenseless position. You may be forcing yourself to be vulnerable so that you can regain your hope. Perhaps you needed to roll over to get your tummy patted. This position could therefore indicate that you are ready to accept a little love from others. In any case, if you are not willing to trust again, this card is forcing you to look at why or why not. So it's time to trust again. Those are some pretty cool cards for tonight. Wowzer, wowzer. Thank you, spirits, for helping me pull these cards. And for it, there's positive stuff in here, you know? Make sure you're not caught up by the illusion, you know?
Yeah. Good cards tonight. You know,
Yep.
I think there's a theme going there. See, Spirit always tells you stuff over and over and over again, if you want to listen or not. I've kind of figured that out. So, like, it's like, you know, it keeps bringing up turtle, otter, been coming up a lot. You know, and when those things come, and dragonfly, yeah, those keep coming up, and they're trying to tell us something, and we're supposed to be listening.
Yeah,
that's the thing. If they keep coming up, you know, and over and over and over again, it's like, hey, and then Spirit's saying, hey, come on, you know.
Yeah, and it's been 2 weeks since I've pulled any cards, and so there has been a gap. But to your point, though, you know, it's like, hey, here, you know, pay attention. You know, we're at the beginning of a new year. There's new presidency, new all kinds of stuff. You know, new chances. There's new hope. But we do, personally and as a society, we've got to learn to trust again. You know, we really do. So, you know, this is on all of us. And if we talk all the time to our friends and neighbors that we just don't trust this, or don't trust Trump, or don't trust this guy, don't trust this over here, don't trust. We can't be like that now. We got the chance to start over, but we got to, just like the cards say, we got to learn to trust again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. I was just talking to a buddy of mine, and we were talking. He says, "What's the one thing you can always count on people to, you know, for, and is not to trust them. You can't trust anybody." And I think that is the thing. You know, depending on how this world is going, the worse it gets, the less you trust people. And the more or less you trust people, the worse it gets. It's kind of a double-edged sword. And It has to start somewhere, but that's the bad part. Once you stop trusting people, and then brings out the fear, because if you don't trust somebody, then you fear somebody, and then you retaliate, you put up your guard, you do all kinds of stuff because there is no trust there. And then you start, you know, normally it'd be like a boss, and he has, you know, workers, but when he doesn't trust them, he micromanages them. And when he micromanages them, they get less done than if he just trusted them to do the job. And that seems to be, to me, that seems to be how it goes, because that's the world we live in. If I don't trust somebody, and it's hard to trust people nowadays, because people, a lot of them are trustworthy. They've proven over and over and over that I can't trust them. And when I find I do trust them, because I'm that kind of trusting person, it always comes to bite me in the butt.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in the old days, we remember, if somebody said, hey, man, I'll be over Saturday to help you out, they'd be over on Saturday to help you out. And they might, and some people will knock on your door at sunrise saying, get up, I come to help you. Where other people might come in around lunchtime, but they'll stay to, till dark 30. So, but there are people, the folks in the old days, the folks who used to get together and, build a barn, or build a house in a day, and sort of like, God bless Jimmy Carter. He tried his best with Habitat for Humanity. So, and going around and building houses for folks, So it's like we can still do it. We still have the ability. It's just that people are like, well, I don't know, I don't see the need. But if you had your house swept away by a random rainstorm that flooded you out, or you were, lost everything you had by a wildfire, then you would think otherwise on some of this stuff.
I think this sums it up. What I kind of just said a little earlier when JoJo's saying, my dad always said he trusted no one. Yeah, it's pretty true. Not even family. Yeah, you can't trust family a lot of times, even though you might be thick as blood. I'd rather trust my friends sometimes. He was such a sweet and honest, good man too. He was also very smart. And there you go. I watched this thing the other day, and there's guys there, they're getting attacked. And the guy says, I'm the smartest man here. And they looked at him, and he says, I'm going to make the decisions so we all survive the night, or whatever it was. And he looks around, and don't get offended, everybody. This is just a joke. But anyway, he gets there and he says, I'm the smartest man here. I'll save the day. Listen to me. And they looked at him and he says, well, how come you're the smartest man here? And he says, well, John over there, he's married. He's got 2 kids. And, so-and-so's over there. Doug, he's married too. And Fred, you're a widower. I'm not married. They all looked at him and thought about it for a minute. And they said, yep. What do you want us to do? What's your decision? Guess he is.
What do you want us to do?
Yeah. You are the smartest man here. Dang. Anyway, that's just funny. Anyway, so that's the scoop on it. I don't know. I'm on a roll with stories that what the heck, right? Oh,
there you go.
Anyway, you got a show tonight.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, good deal. Go get some coffee, let Duggar out, and off you go. And anyway, we'll be back. I'll be back on Saturday night, of course, for another exciting Saturday evening with the roundtable discussions, and who knows what I got planned. I don't even know yet. I was thinking about the reality we live in. Are we just playing a game? I don't know. Maybe that's going to be the topic. I'm stewing over it. Of course, we're coming up to cold nights and fires, and we did the fires. I don't know. Who knows what Saturday is going to be, but join me Saturday. It's going to be a blast. I will have a show, think of something, hopefully, maybe get a really good guest on, somebody maybe I'm working on trying to get people we haven't had on. So it'll be new and entertaining. But thank you all for joining me tonight. Elderberry, JoJo, Chloe, Scotty Boy, Sunset Dreamer, Damn straight. I'll be there on Saturday at 6, so you can count on me. Well, great. Scotty boy, one of these days I'd like to get you on. Boy, we'd have a blast. You tell a joke, I'll laugh. I tell a joke, and then you'll laugh. Wow, what a show. Anyway, let's see. What do we got here? Who else was in the house tonight? We had a whole bunch of people, but thank you everybody. It's way up there. I know it's too far to scroll. Thank you, everyone was here tonight. F Kitty, all you and people who is coming later tonight and watching it another day. It's all great. Remember all the people in the LA fires. Just think of them in your prayers and your thoughts, and send them good good intentions, and maybe we can get all this cleared up and make sure everybody's got a house to go to at night, because that's the worst thing when you lose all your stuff. And what do? Maybe your car got burned up, your house got burned up. I don't care how rich you are, but if all your stuff gets burned up, and it's say family possessions and important things, you can't replace a lot of that. It's gone forever. David, you know how that is.
And it leaves a hole. I have listened to a couple of other people the last few days about how they felt when their house burned down, and and how they're relating to these people, who are in the midst of these wildfires. And it's like, they've all said that, it's 1 minute you got it, and I got this thing, I read this book, and no, it ain't there. Well, I remember I had a picture of, grandma. No, it ain't there. Well, I need to go get my birth certificate. No, it ain't there. So it's like it leaves a hole that just, it doesn't fill back up. It doesn't.
I know. I didn't have a house burned down on me, but I had a garage burned down on me. And kind of the same way. It's like, oh man, I know I had that tool. No, not anymore. I know I had this, or I know I had that. Nope, gone. What was in that garage? Oh, it's gone. Burnt up a really nice couple tractors and my saddles that I had for years and years and years. But I guess that's speaking of the Indians and all, remember in a lot of their traditions that when somebody died, they would bury their possessions with them, and all the rest, they would just burn their house down, burn everything up. It's all gone. The true nomads, it's like just get rid of it all. Burn it up. They're gone. And then they wouldn't even see, especially in the Apaches, and somebody had died, you don't even speak their name after they've died. It's kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess in a way, fire is a cleansing, and maybe we like you said, we just sometimes we hold on to things a little too much, and it leaves a hole in us, which means that we are too tied to this earth. Maybe we shouldn't be so tied. Maybe we should be more forgiving and forgetting. And you know what I mean? You see where I'm going with this here? Kind of, instead of being tied to our things, we should be more tied to our memories, or to the future, and look forward all the time, instead of, oh yeah, all my stuff that I cherished for years and held on to and paid rent on, and gone in some flames, and I did all that work to take care of it, and it's just gone. Anyway.
I just put new windows in, gone.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Bought a new mattress, gone. Just so all of the different things, that it's not there anymore. So it's an interesting feeling, that sense of loss. And so imagine there are folks still in North Carolina and South Carolina too that are, hunkered down in a tent in the snow. It's
Yeah,
cold up
yeah.
there, and
And
on
that,
the other side of the country are wildfires in the mountains, and the people are burning and smoldering and sweating to death. So,
yeah, I,
interesting times, my friends. But
yeah.
one,
Jojo says that someone told me if I don't let things go, you block new coming in. Help me because I'm a hoarder. Yes, I'm a hoarder. Very sentimental. Okay, well, what do you say to that? Does it block the new coming in because we hold on to old things?
sometimes, because that's what one of the cards was talking about. You gotta open up. You gotta open yourself up to allow stuff to come in. So if you don't trust, then you close yourself off. So you can't receive the blessings. It might be from someone you don't know that you bump into in the store, and you strike up a conversation, and the next thing you know. And so I learned something today when I stopped at the river to see what the boat ramp looked like, and struck up a conversation with a gentleman fishing there, and found out some things about the river, and that just north of the bridge there are some Indian mounds up on a high bluff.
Oh
And so
wow.
it's like, if I had not stopped there, if I had not gotten out of the truck, if I hadn't went over and started a conversation, then it's like, oh my God, there are Indian mounds down up the river. Up, holy crap! I can't wait to try my luck and get up there.
You have
So,
to
but
go
anyway, so
check
you
that
don't
out.
know. You gotta allow yourself to get something new. I was just gonna drive home and forget about it. No, let me stop. And no, yeah, well, so you never know. Sometimes the newness is in your head, but you got to allow it. You have to, if you keep yourself closed off, you won't get anything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. Anyway, um, well, I think that's a good way to segue it all. And I hope you get over there to check those mounds out, take some pictures for us, bring us a little scoop. So
Yeah,
anyhow,
it's a ways up the river, and it's going to be a climb because it's up on this bluff,
mm,
like 60 feet kind of thing. Not
mhm.
real high, but and it'll depend on how high the river is as to how high the bank is. So, but
Yeah,
it will absolutely be interesting. So, but
good.
to the point, my friends, don't be afraid to accept a little something new. Especially, you know a lot of us put too much emphasis on it's a new year, and I got, I'm going to make resolutions, and I'm going to do all this stuff. But it is a time, thinking wise, and the whole planet is thinking it's a new year. So to carry that forward with a positive thought, it's a new year. I got a new chance to accept stuff to come in. I got the opportunity to make some new friends. I got the opportunity to try a new hobby. I got the opportunity to do something else. And it's a good
Hmm.
excuse.
Yep, exactly. Yes, Joe, I will. Yeah, she's talking about my horse trip. Anyway, I will. I'll keep you posted and video posted too. So anyway, go get join David on his channel right after this. He's going to get a cup of coffee and have a show. So link is in the description below if you don't know, and if you do know, I'll just get on over there. So remember, everybody, put the people in LA in your thoughts and prayers, and you know. Nothing else. Just think how lucky you got it when you go to bed at night and you have a roof over your head. So, with all that said, be the frequency you want to receive. That's the most important thing of all. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.